Hey everybody, this is Pat Torpy from Mr. Big, and you're listening to Music Mania.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do lives on.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Switzer.
Well, it is great to be back here on the Music Mania podcast. I am Clint Switzer, and after a week-long sabbatical, back at it once again with a huge show this week, as I'm going to be joined a little later by Phil Soussan, bassist extraordinaire. You remember him, of course, from Ozzy Osbourne, working on the Ultimate Sin album with Ozzy. He's played with guys like Billy Idol. He was in the Vince Neil band for Exposed, wrote some songs for that album. Phil has been around, done it all. Currently, he is playing in the Vegas show, Raiding the Rock Vault, which I just attended. I've been gone on the road. I was in LA and Vegas. A little business, a little pleasure worked in. Hit the Raiding the Rock Vault show. Gonna do a review on that. I am a huge fan of Raiding the Rock Vault. To me, it's the best bang for your buck in Vegas. It's currently at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, and I was able to catch up with Phil Soussan in person after that show here just a few days ago. And so that interview will be coming up. Was able to tape that right next to the stage after the show. What a great show it is! You know, just the amount of talent in that band, and they have a lot of moving parts. You've got guitarists like Tracy Guns, Rowan Robertson, Doug Aldrich. You know, kind of switching in and out when they can, when they're not out doing other things. Vocalists like Robin McCauley from MSG, from Survivor. Andrew Freeman, who's a Last in Line member with Phil Soussan, who was able to step in for Hugh McDonald as the Raiding the Rock Vault show, also doing a run in Branson, Missouri, here in my neck of the woods. So Raiding the Rock Vault, basically just an amazing collection of some of the biggest rock hits from the 60s all the way up to the 80s. It's a great show. It is affordable. It's a deal you can get on Groupon right now. And if you're out in Vegas, highly recommend checking out Raiding the Rock Vault. And it was great to see Phil perform with the guys, and what a great, it was just a great show, great night. My friends, I kind of took them, and they didn't really know much about what Raiding the Rock Vault was. Brought them to the show on Tuesday night in Vegas when we were out there. They had a wonderful time. They were fist pumping. They loved all the songs. They knew every word to every song. If you're a fan of that era of rock, you know, late 60s up through the 80s, you need to check out Raiding the Rock Vault. And also check out Phil Soussan's project. It's Last in Line. We've had Vinny Appice, the drummer, on this very show. Kind of a tribute to Ronnie James Dio. And also, they have an album out called Heavy Crown, which was produced by Jeff Pilson. It's really good. So they got the original material. They got Vivian Campbell in the band, Andrew Freeman on vocals. It's a great project. It's a great band. They're out, just started their tour. So be sure to check out The Last in Line, as well as Phil Soussan's website, philsoussan.com. And we are going to head to that interview that I conducted with Phil right after this. If you miss the experience and atmosphere of an old school record store, then visit CD Warehouse in Gladstone. Your one-stop shop for CDs, vinyl, t-shirts, and more. We just moved downstairs from our previous location, so visit us at 2504 Northeast 57th Terrace in Kansas City, Missouri, or call 816-455-2130. CD Warehouse, 22 years strong in North Kansas City, Missouri. And don't forget, we buy, sell, and trade. Well, it's our pleasure here on the Music Mania podcast. And by the way, we are live inside the Hard Rock Casino here following what was a tremendous Raiding the Rock Vault show.
Thank you very
with
much.
Phil Soussan.
Thank you very much. We're at Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Vinyl. That's the name of this club here. And we just had a great show. Just got off stage. Did a little meet and greet, and we're having a lot of fun doing this show.
Well, how did this come about for you? Because I know you're playing with Last in Line, and you're going to be playing tomorrow night, I believe, at Vamped.
Absolutely.
With Vinny and the boys, and Andrew, of course, who's one of the singers here in Rock. How did this come about for you? I know Hugh McDonald, who usually handles bass duties, is off in Branson. A lot of moving parts here. How did this wind up happening for you?
Well, just like you said, it's a lot of moving parts. all of the people in this cast, pretty much people that I've known for a long, long time or worked with. I've worked and known Jay Shellen for, oh my gosh, I don't want to say how many years, because that would date me, but it's been a long, long time. Paul Shortino. And so all of these people I've known, and it was something I was very much aware of. And there was a situation at a certain point in time where I got asked the question, hey, would you want to play on the show from time to time? And I said, of course, I'd love to. I'd love to come out and try it out. Came out, played, just had a great time.
Oh,
I mean, it's very
great.
hard. It's very hard not to have a great time doing this. This is not an original band that has the stresses and the tensions of a traveling band that's going from one place to another and dealing with the like I said, the stresses of touring. We're literally just getting together with our best friends and getting up here and just playing some of our favorite songs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to have a good time, right?
Well, yeah, and you've got this collection of songs. It's funny because it's like Raiding the Rock Vault, that if you guys aren't aware, just covering songs really from the late 60s through the 80s and hit after hit. Everyone knows these songs. People come out here, voted the #1 show in Vegas. But it's crazy. It's as a musician, do you have to like learn these songs? Is it something like you know them all because it's just so familiar? I mean, how does it work?
You do. I mean, but as a musician, to give you a bit of insight into being a musician, part of it, I mean, we know how to play our instruments, so a big part of learning the songs is being familiar with the songs. If you're familiar with a song, you can pretty much play it. So really just being, these are such big hits, and as we're so familiar with them, it's quite easy for us to get up there and play it. We have to concentrate, of course, on arrangements and starts and endings, and of course, it is a Vegas show, so there's some movement going around. There are dancers and there's effects and what have you. You have to pay attention to. But that's really fun for us because it's not what we typically do. It adds a different spin on it, right?
Well, you got the Last in Line coming up here at Vamped tomorrow. We've had Vinny Appice on the show. Huge fan of what you guys are doing. You had the album Heavy Crown that came out in 2016. Just talk about and you specifically kind of maybe one of the odd additions to the band. You had to come in for Jimmy Bain after he passed away.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you? And just kind of talk about your involvement with Last in Line.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet for me because I don't know if you're aware of this, but I was actually good friends with Jimmy. Mm-hmm. And so we knew each other for a long, long time. When I first moved to LA, I actually lived with Jimmy.
Wow.
So, and we went back about 30 years. When I was playing in Ozzy, and Jimmy, of course, was in Dio, Ozzy and Dio were, for want of a better word, they were like sister bands. Mm-hmm. So I was his counterpart in a similar band, and we always had a lot of respect for all of us musicians in those two bands. Always had much respect for each other. So it was a very natural thing, and on top of which, I think Jimmy is very typical of me here, and I'm very typical of Jimmy, as well as many other British bass players. British bass players, I think, have a certain way of playing.
Yeah.
And Jim, I know that Jimmy and I probably shared that. I looked up to Jimmy. He was a little older than me, and so I was a big fan of his as well growing up. So it was a great honor for me. But Vinny turned around and basically said, you're the guy for this. Do you want to do it? And I thought, this is a really nice way to pay tribute to my friend.
And it's unbelievable, Ronnie James Dio having passed away. It's been 7 years. It's unbelievable. He would have been 75, I believe, today, which is crazy.
Almost as old as me.
Ronnie always encapsulated that spirit. That's what Last in Line trying to capture. You guys, of course, have your own original materials in the album Heavy Crown, but paying also tribute to the music of Ronnie and kind of what he did.
Absolutely. And from what I understand, I think that's really how this band sort of came about. They wanted to get together and start and play some of that material, that original material that the original band created. And along the way, a new album came up, and the album grew legs and started to work on its own, which is tremendous. And now we're writing a second record, and we're over halfway through it, and we're very excited about it. It sounds great, and it's very much in keeping in the same style.
Well, our good friend of ours, several times appearance on this podcast, Jeff Pilson, I think, produced the first one. Is he doing the second one as well?
Doing the second one,
He's a little busy, doing all this Foreigner and talking reunions and all.
Yeah, he is. And Jeff's another friend. I mean, this is amazing. This is like a bunch of friends that we've known for decades together. So this is really a wonderful thing because just because of I don't know what the word is for that, where everybody has had this history and then comes together and something natural happens. Maybe there isn't a word for it. Maybe it's Last in Line. I don't know. But that seems to be what's happening. And It's like I said, for me, it's just it's an honor, and I got to say, I feel very saddened about Jimmy having worked so hard on this record and yet not being able to ultimately take it to the fans himself. That I feel it really is an honor for me to be the carrier that takes that to the fans on his behalf. So that was the fact that we've all known each other and we're all friends. I mean, Vinny and I are real tight for years, you know. It's great being in a band with your best friends.
Great drummer. He hits pretty hard.
Nah, he's lame. I've talked to him a little bit because he needs to get a little bit more like strength and power in his drumming.
Yeah,
he's a little light.
Yeah, he's maybe more suited for maybe a new wave band, maybe something like that missing out. But hey, Vinny's awesome.
He is probably
the hardest hitter maybe that's ever lived.
I've been honored to play with some of the greatest drummers in the world, and I got to tell you, he is probably the loudest and hardest hitting drummer I've ever played with.
And it's just funny the connections you talk about, the Ozzy band being connected to this. You were of course, played with Ozzy Osbourne, Ultimate Sin.
Yeah.
Kind of that hair metal Ozzy version. I know that's generalizing, but it's funny. People always talk about who's your favorite Ozzy guitarist. I never hear who's your favorite Ozzy bass player. You're mine.
Oh.
You have surpassed Robert Trujillo. You've surpassed Geezer Butler even. My God, Geezer Butler played with the man.
I don't have any money, but I got a drink ticket.
Hey, you can't see this right now because it's Phil gave me a drink ticket. It's good here. This is good. I don't know. Is your credit line good here?
It's good.
We're at the Hard Rock.
No, it's good for a drink.
But no one talks about that. No one says like, well, Robert Trujillo's my favorite. You know, but you're mine. He's worked with some great musicians, and Ultimate Sin was really big, kind of a transitional period for Ozzy.
Yeah, I was quite honored that. When I played with Ozzy, and I didn't really realize this until we did the Ultimate Sin, and Ozzy turned around to me and he said, you're the only other bass player who's recorded with me. And I said, well, what about all these other... No, Bob Daisley's the only guy who's recorded. Up until that point, it was Bob Daisley and myself, and for a long, long time, it was only the two of us that ever recorded with Ozzy. I don't know why, but he never recorded with anybody else, and until much, much later on, and then he did. So I felt kind of honored and privileged, but at the same time, I think he told me that because I think he was a little bit nervous. He felt that maybe if he didn't do an album with Bob Daisley, that something might
go wrong.
And as it happened, it didn't. It was a great record. It was a different record.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys did the Moscow Peace Festival right around then, I believe, following that, and with Motley and all the guys.
We found Zach.
Yeah, right. Zach Wilde came in around that time after J.P. Lee.
Randy Castillo and I sat in Los Angeles and went through 400 guitar players, and we found Zach.
God, and Randy was such a great guy.
Randy was my best friend.
What a sweetheart.
He's probably my closest life friend,
I
think.
That's the sobering thing you think about just in the last year and a half, and the amount of people we've lost. You're losing Lemmy, David Bowie, these guys. It's sobering for me as a fan because it's like my heroes aren't going to last forever.
Me too. 2016 was just disastrous. I was a huge fan of some of the people you've mentioned. Some of them I knew, and many of them I was just a big fan. And when that started happening, one on the tail of the other, it almost became overwhelming. It became very depressing to me. I just was questioning what's happening. Why is this happening right now?
It's
difficult.
It's depressing as a fan, certainly, because you look around and I guess as humans we all will expire at some point. But we're.
I just want this to be shown on camera that I'm accepting a bribe here. You see, this is how we bribe each other.
Well, we just had Phil get another bunch of drink tickets. He has not offered any to me. I'm just let that be known.
Nice.
Look at that. Well, I got my one. I can't wait till I'm going to hit it up and get a Jack and Coke as soon as it's done. But Phil, before we let you go, it's funny. I was just in LA the other day. Drove by the Capitol Records building. It reminded me of the movie Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which you're involved in. Black Plague.
That's right.
Which was the start of the Vince Neil band. Really, a solo band. It's the start of things. And I've always wanted to know...
It wasn't intentionally, but it was in a way. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and then fractured things. Steve Stevens wasn't either. Apparently,
I was right there at the beginning. When Vince left Motley, he called me up, and him and Jack Blades called me, actually. And, Vince and I had been very, very close friends, and Jack said, you got to put a band together for Vince, and Vince is sitting here, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. So that's what we did. We got together. I was the one who put it together for him. I started writing material with him. I gave him a bunch of songs, and originally Steve Stevens wasn't going to be the guitar player. It was Adrian Vandenberg. And Adrian was supposed to be there, and then all of a sudden this thing happened at the record label, and they suggested, and it was one of those weird things, and Vince went along with it, and Steve came into the band. And, you know, we started working on it, but some issues came up, some friction developed, and you know, I was just happy to have written the record, and I decided to take to bow out because I just didn't want to deal with what was going on. But, you know, Vince and I stayed friends, and you know, we're still friends today.
Yeah, and he's still doing it. You know, Motley, again, you know, no deaths, thank goodness, but Motley plays their last show.
Absolutely.
Vince, of course, still out there doing it. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you think, you know, I mean, an individual person should decide when they want to be done, right? I mean, Motley's done, Nicky, the guy's kind of done with it all, but, you know, you go out there and musicians play. That's what you guys do.
You know, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I know that if I don't play music for any length of time, I get quite miserable. Yeah. And I get unhappy. It's something I love doing. You know, when people say that you have to find the thing that you love to do, and it's the thing that you know, maybe you make your living doing it, but when you don't make money, you still love doing it for the love of it. And if it's taken away from you, it would be a disaster. It would be tragic. So, you know, if he still wants to keep playing music, then that's great. I mean, same as everybody else.
Yeah.
The only time you decide you've had enough is, well, I think that's a sad day when a musician decides they've had enough, or that they don't, you know, they don't.
Yeah, we've had too much sadness going on here.
Yeah.
And Phil, I feel all of a sudden just such a downer. We're gonna have to go use these drink tickets and get this thing back going, man. Because I tell you what, a great show tonight here at Radio Rock Vault.
Thank you
so
very
great
much.
to see you, and we're just honored to have had you here on the Music Mania podcast. I'll tell you, my favorite Ozzy bass player of all time. I want to just reiterate that.
Thank you very much.
Just edging out Robert Trujillo, but no,
I love Robert.
Great guy, great player.
Great guy.
Metallica. I mean, my gosh, he's done well for himself. It seems like a lot of people you've played with have just done pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, he really is tremendous, and he's a great guy, and he's a beautiful cat.
Zach Wilde's back playing with Ozzy.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just saw him do the kind of the Zach Sabbath thing a few weeks ago at a festival. It's cool to kind of keep that. You keep it alive. And that's what Radio the Rock Vault does.
Absolutely.
Keeping these songs alive. That's how it's going to go. Hey, can't wait to see you at Vamp tomorrow night with Last in Line. I'm a huge fan of that band. Phil Soussan, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
here on the
you
Music
very
Media
much.
Podcast. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you very
Thanks so much.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me on.
You bet.
All right, take care.
Well, it was awesome to catch up with Phil at the Hard Rock Casino after the Rating the Rock Vault show. Also able to catch them last in line playing at Vamped the next night. So it was a lot of fun for me. I was in L.A. first with some friends. We caught up with some old friends out there. Did the whole beach thing. Had a Dodgers game. Did L.A. things basically while we were there, and made the drive to Vegas for the first time from L.A. What a great drive that is through the desert. Kind of funny. You got 4 friends packed into a rental car, and that'll teach you a lot about your friendships there. 4 hours through the desert, and we had a great time. We definitely want to thank our sponsor, CD Warehouse in Gladstone. It's 2504 Northeast 57th Terrace there in Gladstone. 22 years, a staple in the North Kansas City area. We want to make sure everyone goes and checks them out. And thanks everyone for joining us here as this Phil Soussan interview. A big one for me, huge fan. As I told him, my favorite Ozzy bassist of all time, and Ozzy's worked with some great musicians, and Phil's been around the scene, done it all, made a lot of friends. No enemies, of course. He's just a good guy, sweetheart of a guy. True gentleman. Gave me a couple drink tickets there for the Hard Rocks. I was able to hang out a little more after the interview. So great time. Great to be back here on the Music Mania podcast. I want to thank everyone for pressing that download button, for subscribing. Hit us up on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all out there. For Clint Switzer from Music Mania, we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you and good evening.